Hello, bruvs. We're back with Heinz, Ewers, Vampire. Um, I don't know where I left off, but I was going to reread this chapter 11, but I just don't care anymore. This book sucks. Braun would be her fiance. I'll just start at the fragment. I don't remember the first part, as I said. Um, this book is not making me happy. Braun would be her fiance, and she wanted him for herself alone. She wanted that understood. Of course, he would not be able to see his former mistress any more and would not go to her house again. It would have to be all over once and for all. She said it very softly and sweetly, cooing like a bird. I would like to make this quite clear. Mrs. Van Ness rose from her chair. She was very pale and nodded silently. There was a pause which Ivy broke, but she was not as sure of herself now as she had been a minute before, and her voice trembled slightly. It seems that she agrees. She interrupted herself. No, she is no longer that. I beg your pardon. Mrs. Van Ness agrees, then. May I have the butler show you out, Mrs. Van Ness? The pale woman said, Are you in such a hurry? Just a word, Miss Ivy, from his former mistress. You should know that. She hesitated, searching for the right words. You should know that your fiancé needs something which you probably won't be able to give him. Ivy shrugged her shoulders. One does not know how much money you have, Mrs. Van Ness. My father does not know exactly either, and perhaps you have more than we, at least now, but you do not earn anything, and my father does. He is making a great deal of money now. Before the war is over, we will have much more still. So you need not worry, Mrs. Van Ness. I don't believe that the man I marry will lack anything he needs. The ghost of a smile flickered on Lottie's lips. You misunderstand me. One cannot buy it. What is it then? Lottie shook her head. I cannot say it. So Ivy turned to him. Do you know? He cast a long glance at Lottie Levy, questioning and imploring. But she did not say anything and did not look at him. I do not know what she means, he said at last. Well, Ivy asked. Lottie answered, No, he does not know, but he will know sooner or later. And if you cannot give him what means life to him, he will know where he can get it, and then he will come back to me. Ivy quickly pressed the button without replying, but Lottie did not wait for the butler. She nodded and left the room. Frank Braun followed her with his eyes. Now she is gone, he felt. Mother. Hello, bruvs. The butler came in. Ask Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson to come in, please, Ivy said. Then she turned to him. I believe I will take the chance, she said slowly. Something that you need that she can give you and I cannot, but she won't say what it is and you don't know. Either she is lying or her glance wandered over his face, his whole body, as if she were undressing him. There was desire in her eyes, and more. Or, she whispered, as if to herself, or. She stamped her foot and threw back her head with a defiant gesture. Breathing hard with quivering nostrils, she flung out the words at him. I want to say it. I want to say it. I want to be able to say anything I like. Do you hear? This is why I want you. What is it? He asked. Why don't you say it? I want you to say a great deal. She continued quickly, but I don't know the words. You must teach me, not now, but later. Over there, in the old world, in Europe, in Asia, you know so much more than we do here. You have so much more knowledge. That is the culture of which they are so jealous here, although they make fun of it in the newspapers. You have a greater knowledge of everything, and of love, too. Love is an art. I read that in a French book once. I want to learn this art. I want to know it as well as that Van Ness woman. This is what I want you for. She came over to him and put her hand caressingly on his. Her hand was moist and trembled violently. I don't read every 2 days. I usually read every day, but this book has been pissing me off. I paid $200 for it, and it's the worst of the three books I bought in the trilogy. It's angering me quite a bit. Well, mostly because I expected vampires, and I mean, there's blood drinking in the book, but it's not vampires. Tell me, she whispered, did Mrs. Van Ness perhaps mean that you like something special in love, that she knew something and can do something that I don't know and couldn't learn? Why don't you say something? Answer me. I don't know what she means, he evaded. Her eyes glowed into his as her fingers closed tightly around his hand. You must tell me, she pleaded. You must never hesitate to say anything to me. But he merely shook his head. Upon my word, I really don't know. She sighed and was silent for a minute. Then she continued, but her voice was firmer now and more confident. And yet I don't believe that she lied. Only, she is twisting it around, I think. It isn't that you need something that only she could give you. It is she who is taking something from you. He stared at her in open amazement. I thought of that too. That very thing, more than once. What made you say that? She patted his hand quickly with nervous fingers. Do you think I didn't notice all this time how you were? Sometimes you were very well, strong and healthy, and other times tired and empty and flat. And Mrs. Van Ness, I have watched her whenever I met her at the opera and at concerts in Carnegie Hall. When you looked well, she was pale and gaunt, and sometimes she looked like death, but she blossomed forth and became well and fresh looking when you were feeling miserable. I have been writing it down in my calendar for almost a year. I can show you the dates if you like. Tell me, what did you two? She interrupted herself at the sound of approaching voices. Not now, she cried. Here are father and mother. Not now, but this is the explanation. I am sure she sapped your strength and she drove you into this mad whirl, so you would not notice, so you would not find time to think about what she was doing to you. But what was she doing? He cried, and how and when? Ivy laughed. I don't know how, nor what she did, but I can certainly tell you when she did it. Did you never sleep with her? As the door opened, Ivy threw her arms around his neck. The hell's that noise? As the door opened, Ivy threw her arms around his neck, rose up and kissed him. Then she tore herself away and ran to her parents. Dear, she cried, we are engaged. He did not have 1 minute to himself all day. He had to stay for tea, and then Ivy drove him home. He walked slowly up the stairs, afraid of the at last that would greet him, this eternal at last, and please hurry. He was greeted with two at lasts, and his secretary added a thank God you have come. He hurried Frank Braun into his bedroom, where Fred was waiting to help him dress. Please hurry. Isn't that what you are going to say? I know. To the bazaar. Yes, yes. Can't you leave me alone one single night? But, Doctor, Rosius said reproachfully, this is Sunday, the big day. The ambassadors have come, especially from Washington. I know, he sighed. Where is my tailcoat, Fred? Thousands of people crowded around Madison Square Garden. The gates had to be closed some time before, and a detail of policemen were keeping the crowds in check. 10 people would come out, and then the policemen let 10 others in. 10 only, but tens of thousands were waiting for admission. They stood patiently outside in the pouring rain for hours. Frank Braun and his party went in through the basement and up the stairs into the immense area or arena where a tent city had been built. It represented Nuremberg, a Nuremberg that one sees in children's picture books. Frank Braun went up to the gallery, and as he leaned over the balustrade, he looked down upon a sea of changing color. Roaring and shouting, waves of humanity rippled and swelled, heaved and broke as they were pushed in and out of the room by the everlasting human tide. Colored waves under a huge sky of cloth that covered the whole scene with its soft yellow folds. Right inside the gate of the tent city was a booth in which the nurses of the German hospitals sold dolls. Adjoining them in an endless row were the tents of the various German organizations: Arion, Leiterkranz, Deutscher Verein, Heinbund, Spruchverein, Verein der Vereinten, Backer, and countless others. Next to the waffle booth in which the ladies were dressed in purple colors was Lottie Levy's tent, where she sold Nuremberg toys. He could see her from the gallery working busily with three young ladies who all had reddish blonde hair just like hers. All four wore identical silk dresses of a milky, steel blue color with Nile green kerchiefs tied over them. He watched her selling a little wooden horse with a cart to a fat lady and persuading her to take a doll kitchen as well. Then Lottie took up a jumping jack and pulled the strings, making him dance and jiggle merrily. The fat lady could not resist and bought the jumping jack as well as the other things. She tried to make him jump, but hard as she tried, she could not emulate Lottie. Lottie is much better at this, he thought. She knows all about jumping jacks, whether they are made of wood or of flesh and blood. Something within him jerked, and he felt as if he, too, had to jump and beat his arms and legs when Lottie pulled the strings. Now she wrapped up the jumping jack and gave it to the fat lady, the buyer. The buyer? Had not Ivy Jefferson bought him but a couple of hours ago? With a deep sigh, he wiped the perspiration off his forehead and walked over to a refreshment tent for a drink. Hello, bruvs. After he had sat there a while, Dr. Cohn came in, panting for breath, and sat down beside him. What did you buy? Frank Braun asked him. Your coat hangs down like a flour bag. The physician pulled a black case out of his pocket. That, he cried. Oh, I have been carrying this around with me for days. I brought it for Mrs. Van Ness, and I always forget to give it to her. He put the case down on the table. But what is in it? Frank Braun was curious. May I see? Dr. Cohn opened the case. A set of bisturies? What is that? Bisturies? Bisturies? A very nice one, too. You couldn't get a better one anywhere, not with knives that cut better than these. Frank Braun gaped. A complete set of surgical instruments. But what does Mrs. Van Ness want with it? He asked. That's a professional secret, but I guess I can tell you. She needs them for her corns. Involuntarily, Frank Braun cried, but lo! He choked back the words not to betray himself, meanwhile staring at the shiny knives as if in a trance. He knew them well, her white, well-groomed little feet. She wore rings on her toes with colored stones on them. Then she felt in the mood. When she felt in the mood. Corns, ridiculous. Lottie Levy and corns? The physician shut the case and pushed it over to Frank Braun. Do me a favor and give it to her when you see her. Will you? I might forget it again. Why don't you give it to her yourself? There she is. No, she is just getting up. She is coming over here now. Dr. Cohn hailed her. This is a lucky coincidence, Mrs. Van Ness. I brought you your set. With a sigh, she took the case. Then she smiled faintly. A little late, my dear doctor. Who knows whether I will ever be able to use it now? She turned to the woman with her. May I present our president to you, Dr. Cohn? The two shook hands and walked slowly ahead. Lottie sat down at his table, idly playing with the black case. Neither of them spoke. A frozen smile was on her lips. Her hands on the black case seemed very white, like the hands of a marble statue. She is a dead woman, he thought. He loved her dearly. He had a curious, tight feeling in his chest. Tears welled up in his eyes and ran down his cheeks, quietly, slowly, but incessantly. He loved her so very dearly. She rose and passed her cool hand softly across his forehead. Farewell, she said. Then she turned to go. His eyes fell on the case. You forgot your case. She nodded, thanked him, and took it. Perhaps later, she said. Then she left. He took out his handkerchief, wiped his face, and sipped his coffee. Now that she had gone, he could think more clearly. Those little knives, those shiny knives, the best and sharpest knives in the world for cutting and making incisions. For her corn, she had told the doctor, she who never had a corn in her life. What did she want with them? And what was it she had said to Dr. Cohn? That it was too late now. He laughed. Too late, too late. Because this very day, Ivy Jefferson, yes, Ivy had bought the jumping jack now. She had bought him. Lottie had wanted the knives for him. There was no doubt about it. Had he not often noticed similar knives on her bedside table? And the sharp little knife that she had given him to take down to Mexico, the one that got bloody on the day he drank the mezcal. That day he had been sound asleep on his sofa, having absurd dreams, but the knife had become bloody. What was it Ivy had said? She did not know how and what, but she did know when they slept together then. And why had Lottie taken the dancer straight away to her house? Why? Had the dancer done what Lottie commanded her to do while he was asleep? Had she been only Lottie's tool? A tool for what? No matter. One thing was certain, something had happened to him, and had happened over and over again while he was asleep, and it must have something to do with these sharp little knives and with red blood, and also with the strange disease from which he suffered, the slow disease that was puzzling the physicians, and that drained his vitality and sapped his strength. She sapped his strength, she, Lottie, his beloved. He loved her so much, he had never known how much until now. He loved her so dearly, he did not want to believe all this about her. And yet, what else could it be? It must be true. He left the refreshment tent and stepped out once more onto the gallery. There she was, standing in her booth with the three ladies, Nile green kerchiefs over dresses of a milky steel blue color. And their hair, what a symphony of color. She sold little wooden horses, cows, doll kitchens, and cannons that shot peas. No jumping jacks, no, there weren't any more in her booth, all sold out. He went downstairs into the immense arena and followed the pressure of the crowd. I really know how to sell this book, don't I? Finally arrived at Biedermeier Wine Garden, which Amy Brighthour was running in a quiet nook in the basement of the huge building. Here only champagne was sold. This was the place where all the notables and the rich were sitting, while the crowd that filed past the rose hedge surrounding the garden would stop curiously to point out someone. Look, there is. Amy Brighthour stood under a linden tree playing the hostess in a genuine period costume, assisted by 12 barmaids in similar dresses. The ambassador was sitting in a corner, hiding modestly behind the rose hedge, but someone had spied him from outside. There is the Count, the Count. He was the symbol of Germany in this country. He was the Kaiser's ambassador and the Kaiser's friend. He meant home. He meant Germany. Hoch, they cried. Hoch, Hoch. They cheered Germany and the Kaiser and the ambassador. They sang the Wacht am Rhein, Deutschland über alles, and the Preußenlied. They did not stop until he mounted a chair and addressed them, and again they cheered. Someone next to Frank Braun hissed, "It is a disgrace how he is carrying on." Frank Braun turned around, a woman of rich, mature beauty. "Oh, Mrs. Thistlehill." "What is a disgrace?" he inquired. "Can't you see?" she hissed. "There he has her at his table again. Your ambassador takes her along everywhere. That dirty piece of trash. Now she covers herself with diamonds since she married a millionaire, but she is a whore. Haven't you slept with her yet? My husband has. Everybody in this garden has." She shouted it in a loud voice to make sure that everyone could hear her. "Hold your tongue, will you?" Frank Braun said angrily, but Amy Brighthour calmly turned around and patted her good-naturedly on her naked shoulder. "Well, well," she laughed. "And didn't they sleep with you too, my dear? Why be jealous, then?" She turned to Frank Braun. How do you like my dress? He looked her up and down. The devil knows how you do it, Amy. The oldest of your ladies is 10 years younger than you, but you look 10 years younger than the youngest of them. And your dress. Give your dressmaker a kiss for me. Leaning against him, she whispered, my dress is very comfortable, and it has a secret. Another one? It seems all your dresses have secrets, but only to solve the question of comfort. Tell me, Amy, what good is a comfortable dress to you here? She winked at him. Come along, I will show you something. She pulled him behind the little fountain surrounded by iris, past the jasmine bush, and pointed to a hedge overgrown with honeysuckle. Do you see anything there? No, of course not. Nobody can see it. My gardener is just as clever as my dressmaker. She took his hand and led him into the green shrubbery. Hold on to that, she whispered. Lift it up, but be careful. He felt the doorknob in his hand and turned it softly, opening a narrow door that was hidden in the shrubbery until he could see through a slit. That's enough, she whispered. Now look through the slit. He saw a small room with rugs on the floor and mirrors on the walls. There were a few low tables, and in one corner stood a small suitcase. On the sofa sat his secretary, Ernst Rosius, bending over a pad and writing busily. She closed the door carefully. I locked him in there. I locked him in here, she chuckled. He has to write a poem for me. He is well taken care of until I have time to eat my dessert. I am looking forward to it. He is a sweet boy. Weird chapter. Let's see what the next chapter, how long it is. Not going to be read tonight, that's for damn sure. Well, that chapter was much more interesting. At least the second half was. I don't remember the first half. But that's going to be all for now. How many pages are left? Basically 100. All right, Rubs. That's all. That's all, Rubs. Unless anyone has something to say here. All right, that's all.